A narcissist never respected you, not once. What they gave you in the beginning wasn't admiration. It was a tactic. Their respect was never real. It was a setup to make you trust them so they could take more from you. Jung wrote that when the ego is fragile, the shadow manufactures masks to survive. Their early respect was one of those masks, an illusion meant to keep you compliant while they fed on your emotional energy. But here's the truth. No one tells you. Only one shift forces a narcissist to respect you. Not love, not forgiveness, not understanding, not even confrontation. So what is the only way that makes a narcissist respect you? The answer begins with seeing the truth of what they never gave you in the first place. The absence of respect didn't start in the devaluation. It started in the dream, the moment that hooked you before danger had a name. To understand what happened, you have to see the love bombing for what it truly was. Not romance, but a psychological transaction. When they first entered your life, it likely felt like a whirlwind. They moved fast. They made promises. They mirrored your interests and your values perfectly. You thought, finally, I have met someone who respects me enough to prioritize me. But let's look at this through the concept of object relations. In healthy psychology, we relate to others as whole objects. This means we acknowledge that the other person is a distinct universe. They have their own history, their own contradictory feelings, their own rights, and their own flaws. Respect is the recognition of this wholeness. It is the understanding that you cannot simply mold another person to fit your momentary needs. The narcissist relates to you as a part object. In their unconscious mind, you are not a separate person. You are a function. You are an appliance. Think about the relationship you have with your car. You might say you love your car. You might wash it every weekend, take photos of it, and show it off to your friends. But do you respect your car? Do you ask your car for permission before you drive it? Do you worry about whether your car is tired? No. You value the car for what it does for you. It gives you status, and it takes you from point A to point B. This is exactly how the narcissist viewed you during that golden beginning. They admired your utility. I know this realization hits hard. When you finally see that their admiration was never about you, it can feel like the ground is dropping beneath your feet. Breathe through it. Your clarity will stabilize you faster than you expect. They saw your beauty, your status, your empathy, or your resources, and they wanted to attach those things to themselves. They were not falling in love with you. They were acquiring an asset. The intense focus you felt was not the gaze of a lover. It was the appraisal of a collector. This explains why they could act with such terrifying ease. Real respect is a slow process. It takes time to build trust. It takes time to understand the nuances of another human being. But using is fast. They didn't need to know your soul to know that you made them look good. They didn't need to respect your boundaries to know that you provided excellent emotional support. They bypassed the human connection entirely and went straight to the functional connection. Think back to the early days of your relationship. You are at a dinner party with their friends or colleagues. The narcissist has their arm around you. They are telling a story to the table about something amazing you did, maybe a project you finished or a talent you have. They are beaming at you. You feel incredibly special. You think, wow, they are so proud of me. But I want you to replay that scene and look closer. Look at their eyes. They aren't looking at you with warmth. They are scanning the faces of the other guests. They are checking to see if the others are impressed. They are using your achievement to elevate their own status. Look at me, their behavior says. I am important enough to secure a partner of this quality. You are a shiny prop they are using to perform their own play. Then something small happens in the middle of that dinner party. You gently correct a detail, or you spill a drink on their sleeve. Watch how quickly the respect evaporates. The smile drops. A flash of cold fury appears in their eyes. They might squeeze your arm a little too hard or make a sharp, humiliating joke at your expense. Why? Because the prop malfunctioned. The toaster burned the toast. When you stopped making them look good for even a second, you lost your value. That instant switch proves that the respect was never for you. It was for your performance. This leads us to the most chilling aspect of their lack of respect: the absence of guilt. You have likely spent hours trying to explain to them how their actions hurt you. You think, if they just understood how much pain they caused, they would stop. You assume they operate with the same moral machinery that you do. But Jungian psychology warns us that when the persona, the mask, consumes the personality, there is no room for genuine conscience. You do not feel guilty when you throw away a pen that has run out of ink. You simply find a new one. Because the narcissist views you as a source of supply rather than a human being, they do not feel remorse when they lie to you, cheat on you, or manipulate you. To them, these are just necessary maneuvers to get what they need. They might mimic an apology if they think you are about to leave, but they do not feel the internal sting of conscience. This realization is devastating, but it is also the first step toward your freedom. You have been trying to appeal to a humanity that isn't accessible. You have been trying to win back a respect that was never given in the first place. You cannot lose what you never had. You were hired for a role, and now they are angry that you want to be a person instead of an actor. Once you see their respect was only a mask, the spell breaks. For the clarity to never fall for it again, subscribe to Zero Mind, where we decode the unconscious and rebuild your sovereignty. But if the beginning was just a performance of respect, what is the trigger that turns that performance into the nightmare of devaluation? In the next part, we will dismantle the mechanism that causes them to turn on you with such sudden, terrifying precision. The transition from the idealization phase to the devaluation phase is often the most traumatic experience in a victim's life. It creates a state of cognitive dissonance that can last for years. You wake up one morning and the person who treated you like royalty now treats you like a burden. If your chest tightens listening to this, that's normal. Your body remembers the moments your reality shifted without warning, and it's finally safe enough to acknowledge them. It feels sudden. It feels personal. You might have just asked a simple question or expressed a small need, and the atmosphere in the room drops 50 degrees. The warmth is replaced by a cold, calculating irritation. You naturally look for the cause in your own behavior. You think, maybe I was too needy. Maybe I shouldn't have asked for that. Maybe I'm not interesting enough anymore. But the cause does not lie in your actions. It lies in the inevitability of their psychological cycle. Carl Jung identified a principle called enantiodromia, the tendency of any extreme psychological state to eventually turn into its opposite. The narcissist's initial worship of you was an extreme, unrealistic fantasy. And because gravity exists in psychology just as it does in physics, that fantasy was destined to crash. When the narcissist first met you, they projected their golden shadow onto you. This means they saw in you all the perfection, power, and wholeness that they desperately wish they possessed. They didn't see a human. They saw a savior. They saw a god or goddess who would finally fill the empty void inside them. But this projection, sets you up for failure. A pedestal is a dehumanizing place to be. When you are on a pedestal, you are not allowed to move. You are not allowed to change. You are not allowed to be human. Eventually, reality sets in. You have a bad day. You get the flu. You have a moment of insecurity. You forget to do something they asked. In a healthy relationship, these are just normal parts of life. To the narcissist, these are betrayals. The moment you display your humanity, you shatter their projection. You stop being the idealized parent who provides endless supply, and you become the disappointing reality. Here's how it happens. You have a crisis at work. You are stressed, maybe even crying. You come home looking for comfort from your partner. In the beginning, they would have held you for hours. But now, they look at you with disgust. They roll their eyes. They might say, "You're always so dramatic," or "I had a hard day too. Why is it always about you?" Why do they react this way? Because your vulnerability is inconvenient. It reminds them that you are a separate person with needs that require their energy. They don't want to give energy. They want to take it. Your pain breaks the illusion that you exist solely to serve them. In that moment, they must devalue you to protect themselves from the reality of your humanity. They have to convince themselves that you are the weak one, you are the defective one, so they don't have to feel the shame of their own lack of empathy. This devaluation serves a very specific function for the narcissist's ego. They operate on a binary system, superior or inferior. There is no equality. For them to feel superior, someone else must be inferior. When they feel internal shame or insecurity, which they feel constantly, they cannot process it. They project it. This is the shadow dump. When they look at you with that sneering contempt, they are not actually seeing you. They are seeing their own repressed self-loathing projected onto your face. When they call you stupid, they are battling their own fear of incompetence. When they call you selfish, they are projecting their own pathological narcissism. They treat you like garbage because deep down in the unconscious, they feel like garbage. They are using you as a container for their toxic waste. This explains why your efforts to fix the relationship during this phase always fail. You try to be perfect. You try to anticipate their needs before they ask. You walk on eggshells, suppressing your own personality to avoid triggering them. But the more you try to please them, the more they despise you. Why? Because your subservience proves to them that you are weak. In their mind, power is everything. If you are willing to submit to someone who mistreats you, you must be of low value. It is a cruel paradox. They demand your submission, but when you give it to them, they lose all respect for you. Your kindness irritates them because it highlights their own cruelty. Your patience angers them because it mirrors their own lack of control. There is no winning this game because the game is rigged against reality. You are fighting a ghost. You are fighting the imago, the internal image they have of you, which has turned from all good to all bad. You cannot reason with a projection. This confirms the central truth we must accept. You cannot earn respect through effort, kindness, or perfection. The variable that causes their disrespect is not your behavior. It is their pathology. You could be the most perfect partner in the history of the world, and they would still eventually devalue you because their psyche demands it. They need a target to regulate their own internal pressure, and you are the closest target available. If you're recognizing pieces of your story in this cycle and you're still standing through it, leave one word in the comments: unbroken. It's a declaration that even when their fantasy collapses, your spirit doesn't. But if their disrespect is a mechanism to stabilize themselves, what does that say about the strength of their ego? In the next part, we will open the hood of their psyche to reveal the fragile, terrified machinery that requires your submission to survive. Every argument with a narcissist is not really a disagreement. It is their ego activating its most primitive defenses. Slow it down for a moment and step into the middle of an argument with them. You know the one. It's the circular argument that never ends. You are standing in your kitchen, your heart pounding, trying to explain basic logic. You have facts, you have text messages, you have proof of what happened. You are speaking calmly, trying to be rational, but they are looking at you with a blank, glazed-over expression, or perhaps a smirk that makes your blood boil. You feel like you are screaming into a void. You might think they are just being stubborn. You might think, if I just find the right words, they will understand. But Jungian psychology tells us something much more disturbing is happening in this moment. You are not arguing with an adult. You are threatening a fragile, archaic psychological structure. You are not weak for getting trapped in these loops. Even the strongest minds drown in conversations designed to confuse them. The moment you see the pattern, you've already taken back more power than you realize. We often mistake the narcissist's arrogance for high self-esteem. We see their grandiosity, their boasting, their entitlement, and we assume they love themselves. This is the persona at work. But Jung taught that a complex, a knot of unconscious feelings, is often compensated for by its exact opposite. The narcissist's display of superiority is a massive defense mechanism built to hide a crushing sense of inferiority. Their ego is not strong, it is incredibly brittle. It is like a balloon that is constantly leaking air. They require your constant attention, praise, and submission to keep it inflated. This is why they cannot tolerate equality. To respect you, they would have to see you as an equal. But in their binary world, if you are equal, then they are no longer superior. And if they are not superior, they face the terrifying abyss of their own worthlessness. This is why they cannot let you win an argument. Even a small concession feels like a psychological death to them. Admitting they were wrong destroys the illusion of their perfection. Here's what the lie looks like in real life. You catch them in a direct lie. Maybe they said they were at work, but you saw them at a bar. You confront them with the evidence. A respectful person, a person with a solid ego, would feel shame and apologize. They would say, "I messed up, I'm sorry." But watch what the narcissist does. They explode. They flip the script instantly. They might say, "You're crazy, you're stalking me, you're so controlling, this is why I can't tell you anything." Notice what just happened. They shifted the focus from their action, the lie, to your reaction, your character. They cannot handle the reality of "I am a liar." That reality is too painful for their fragile ego. So they must create a new reality where you are the villain. This is gaslighting. It is not just a manipulation tactic. It is a survival reflex for their ego. They must make you the crazy one so they can remain the sane one. This behavior is characteristic of the puer aeternus, the eternal child archetype. The eternal child wants the freedom of an adult, but acts with the emotional immaturity of a toddler. They want to do whatever they want, whenever they want, without consequences. When you try to hold them accountable, you are forcing them to face reality. You become the bad parent in their mind. They rebel against you not because you are wrong, but because you represent the limits they are trying to escape. Because their ego depends on this hierarchy, you cannot make them respect you from a position of submission. Many victims fall into the trap of appeasement. You think, if I just apologize for this fight, even though I didn't start it, we can go back to being happy. You swallow your truth to keep the peace. But here is the tragedy. Every time you back down, you are not buying their respect, you are selling your own. Every time you apologize for something you didn't do, you confirm their belief that they are superior and you are inferior. You validate their delusion. You are teaching them that their defense mechanism works. You are handing them the bricks to build their wall higher. The narcissist unconsciously despises people who are weak enough to be manipulated by them. It is a twisted dynamic. They demand that you submit, but when you do, they look at you with disgust. They see your compliance as proof that you are essentially a tool to be used, and no one respects a tool. So, the mechanism of their ego ensures that as long as you are trying to soothe them, fix them, or endure them, you will remain in a state of disrespect. You are feeding the monster that is eating you. This realization leads us to a crossroads. If you cannot change their mind and you cannot win their respect through submission, what is left? You have to change the source of power entirely. You have to stop looking at their psychology and start looking at your own. In the next part, we will move from analyzing their darkness to igniting your own light. We will discuss the radical shift that turns the tables and introduces the only force they actually fear. This exhaustion you feel is not weakness. It is the doorway to self-respect. So, you are standing there, wiped out, drained of all energy. You have tried explaining, crying, begging, shouting, and silence. Nothing has worked. You feel completely powerless, as if your voice has no sound and your presence has no weight. But this moment of total exhaustion is actually a gateway. It is the precise moment where you stop looking outward for validation and start looking inward for survival. Self-respect in this context means something far more radical than most people realize. It is not about looking in the mirror and reciting affirmations. It is not about feeling confident or convincing yourself that you are worthy. In the jungle of a narcissistic relationship, self-respect is a tactical, psychological act of war against what Carl Jung called participation mystique. This term describes a state of unconscious identity fusion. It occurs when you are so entangled with another person that you lose the borders of your own self. You feel their anger as your fear. You feel their disapproval as your shame. You are living in their reality, not yours. Self-respect is the sharp, deliberate action of cutting that cord. It is the process of individuation, waking up and realizing that you are a separate being with a separate mind, and that your perception of reality is valid even if they disagree with it. This shift changes the texture of your daily life immediately. It moves you from a state of begging to a state of being. It means understanding that their opinion of you is just data about them, not a verdict on you. But this is incredibly difficult to execute because you are fighting against a powerful psychological addiction. Here's how it plays out in real life. The narcissist comes to you at the last minute with a demand. Perhaps they need you to lend them a significant amount of money, or they want you to cancel your plans with friends to attend a work event where they need to look good. They ask with a sense of total entitlement, assuming you will say yes because you've always said yes. In the past, your body would have reacted before your mind could even process the request. You would have felt a knot of anxiety in your stomach. You would have thought, if I say no, they will be angry. They will give me the silent treatment for 3 days. It is easier to just do it. You would have sacrificed your own needs to buy a moment of peace. But today, armed with the principle of self-respect, you do something different. You check in with yourself. You realize you do not want to do it. You realize it crosses a boundary. So you look at them calmly and say, "No, I can't do that today." The reaction will be immediate. They will not accept your boundary with grace. They will try to manipulate you using guilt. They might say, "Wow, I thought you loved me. You are so selfish." They might switch to aggression. "You never help me. You are useless." A person without self-respect would crumble here. The word selfish would trigger a deep fear of being a bad person. You would apologize and do the favor just to prove that you are good. But self-respect allows you to see the mechanism. You recognize that selfish is just a projection. You recognize that their anger is a tantrum because they are not getting their way. You do not explain. You do not offer a 5-minute defense of why you are busy. Explaining is a form of pleading. It implies that they have the authority to judge whether your reasons are valid. You simply say, "I understand you are disappointed, but I am not doing it." And then, and this is the key, you go back to what you were doing. You do not engage in the fight that follows. You do not absorb their insults. You let their words hang in the air, belonging to them, not you. This sounds simple, but your body will fight you. Jungian psychology teaches us that when a complex, an emotionally charged group of ideas is triggered, it takes over the ego. You have a compliance complex installed in you. When you say no, your heart will race, your hands might shake, your brain will scream that you are in danger. This is not intuition. This is a withdrawal symptom. You are withdrawing from the cycle of seeking their approval to feel safe. The narcissist relies on this dependency. They use a technique known as intermittent reinforcement. This is the breadcrumbing tactic. Just when you start to pull away, just when you find a little bit of strength, they switch. They stop being the monster and become the angel. You hold your boundary for 2 days. Suddenly, they come home with a gift. They look at you with those soft eyes from the beginning. They say, "I know I've been stressed lately. I really appreciate you." They make you a cup of coffee. This is the most dangerous moment. Your brain, starved for affection, wants to believe that the real them has returned. You want to relax. You want to let them back in. But self-respect requires you to stay awake. You have to recognize that this kindness is not a permanent change in character. It is a tactical maneuver to regain control. They sense you drifting away, so they are reeling you back in. If you accept the coffee and open your heart immediately, the abuse will return within days, often worse than before. Self-respect means accepting the coffee but keeping the drawbridge up. You say, "Thank you," but you do not dismantle your boundaries. You do not flood them with relief and gratitude. You wait. You observe behavior over time. You trust patterns, not moments. This discipline forces you to confront the loneliness of your position. When you stop merging with them, you feel the distance between you. It can feel cold, but that distance is necessary. It is the space in which your own personality can finally breathe. You are reclaiming the energy you used to spend managing their moods. By refusing to merge, you are creating a vacuum in their supply line. They are used to pushing a button and getting a reaction. When you respect yourself, the button stops working. You are telling them through your actions, "I am not an extension of you. I am not your parent. I am not your trash can. I am a sovereign entity." This internal shift changes your presence in the room. You stop making yourself small. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You stop filtering your thoughts through the lens of, "Will this upset them?" You start living your life alongside them rather than for them. The narcissist will sense this shift before you even speak it. They are hyper-vigilant observers of power dynamics. They will feel that you are no longer fluid. You have become solid. While they may hate this solidity, while they may kick against it and scream, they are forced to acknowledge it exists. They can no longer walk through you. This is the core of individuation. It is the painful, necessary process of becoming who you are, separate from the demands of others. It requires you to tolerate their displeasure without trying to fix it. It requires you to witness their anger without taking responsibility for it. Every time you hold a boundary, you break a strand of the web they have spun around you. You are retraining your own nervous system. You are teaching yourself that you can survive their disapproval. You are proving to yourself that your safety comes from your own ability to protect yourself, not from their permission to exist. This internal work is the foundation for everything that follows. Without it, any external action you take will be temporary. You might leave, but you will go back. You might argue, but you will eventually submit. But once you have established this internal citadel of self-respect, you become dangerous to their false reality. You become immune to the tools they use to control you. As you solidify this internal stance, the external dynamic begins to destabilize. The narcissist, realizing they are losing their grip on your mind, will react. The energy in the relationship will shift from a stable cycle of abuse to a chaotic struggle for power. In the next part, we will explore exactly what happens when this internal shift manifests externally. We will watch the dynamic crumble when you finally stop feeding the mechanism that has kept you trapped for so long. A power shift never begins with a loud moment. It begins with a small change in you that they can feel before you even speak. Picture the moment. You're in a confined space with them. Maybe you're in the passenger seat of a car, watching the trees blur past the window, or you are standing in the kitchen washing dishes while they pace behind you. The air in the room changes. You feel that familiar drop in your stomach because you know exactly what is coming. They start picking a fight. They press the specific psychological buttons that they installed in you years ago. Perhaps they make a sarcastic comment about your family, or they bring up a mistake you made 3 years ago, twisting the details to make you look incompetent. In the past, the script was written in stone. You would have snapped. You would have defended your character, raised your voice, or perhaps retreated into tears. That reaction was the currency of your relationship. In Jungian psychology, we call this the flow of libido, not just sexual desire, but the raw psychic energy that drives human connection. For the entire relationship, the narcissist has survived on this energy. They provoked you, you exploded, and they consumed your emotion to regulate their own unstable sense of self. They needed your anger or your pain to verify that they were powerful and that they existed. But today, the script changes. Today, you do the one thing they never calculated for. You do nothing. That silence will feel unnatural at first. Your mind will beg you to explain, to defend, to fill the space with words. Let the urge pass. This is the part where your power quietly rearranges itself. You stare out the car window. You keep scrubbing the plate. Your breathing remains slow and rhythmic. You do not sigh. You do not roll your eyes, and you do not interrupt. You are deploying what is often called the grey rock method. But here, we understand it as a profound act of withdrawal of projection. You are no longer projecting your need for understanding onto them. You are keeping your energy contained within your own system. The silence that follows your non-reaction is deafening. It is not a peaceful silence. It is a heavy, tension-filled void. You can almost feel their panic rising behind you. They are sending out a pulse of aggression and getting nothing back. It is a psychological crisis for them. Without your emotional reaction to reflect their grandiosity or their victimhood back to them, they feel invisible. They are forced to confront the vacuum of their own personality. They might prod you harder. They might say, "Are you ignoring me? Oh, so you're giving me the silent treatment now. You're being such a child." They are desperate for a reaction because your reaction proves they have control. When you refuse to engage, you are effectively telling them that they no longer have the power to alter your internal state. You turn to them calmly and say something completely neutral. "I hear that you're upset," or simply, "That is your opinion." And then you return your gaze to the window. You have just denied them their food. By refusing to engage in their distorted reality, you are forcing them to confront a terrifying truth. They do not control you. You have become an observer of the storm rather than a victim within it. You are watching a toddler throw a tantrum, but you are not the parent who needs to fix it. This shift forces the narcissist to carry their own shadow. Jung explained that the shadow consists of the dark, repressed aspects of the personality, the shame, the aggression, the weakness. Throughout the relationship, the narcissist used you as a container for their shadow. When they felt weak, they called you weak. When they felt like a liar, they called you a liar. But when you stop accepting these projections, when you do not internalize their insults, the shadow has nowhere to go. It bounces back onto them. They are forced to sit with their own negativity. This is an intolerable state for them. But be warned, they will not accept this loss of power quietly. When a strategy that used to work suddenly stops working, the narcissist enters a phase of escalation. Behavioral psychologists call this an extinction burst. It is the spike in behavior before the behavior dies out. You need to be prepared for this. The narcissist will likely increase the intensity of their provocation. They might say things that are deliberately cruel, targeting your deepest insecurities simply to check if the mechanism is still functional. They want to see if they can still force you to lose control. It is crucial to understand that this escalation is not a sign that your boundary is failing. It is a sign that your boundary is working. They are panicking. They are trying every key on the ring to see which one will unlock your defenses. When the aggression no longer works, this is what they do next. The narcissist might suddenly switch tactics and manufacture a crisis. You might receive a text message late at night claiming they are ill, or that they have had a sudden financial emergency, or that they are deeply depressed and need you immediately. This is a test. They are checking to see if your empathy is still a lever they can pull. If you rush to their side, panicking and fixing their problem, the dynamic resets. You have proven that you are still an extension of their needs. But if you maintain your position, if you offer a calm, practical solution without taking on their emotional burden, you solidify the power shift. You might say, "I am sorry to hear that. You should contact a doctor." Or, "That sounds difficult. I hope you can resolve it." You offer the sympathy of a stranger, not the self-sacrifice of a victim. This consistent non-reaction forces the narcissist to view you through a new lens. In their unconscious mind, they categorize people into two groups: those they can control and those they cannot. Those they can control are viewed with contempt. Those they cannot control are viewed with a wary, involuntary respect. This is not the respect of admiration, it is the respect of caution. They realize you are a solid object that cannot be manipulated. You have become a sovereign state with heavily guarded borders. They begin to realize that the participation mystique, that unconscious fusion where they believed you were just a part of them, has been severed. You are standing on your own ground. In this state of detachment, you begin to see their behavior patterns clearly, without the fog of emotion. You see the cycle of abuse not as a reflection of your worth, but as a repetitive, mechanical script that they act out with everyone. You see their tantrums not as frightening displays of power, but as immature outbursts of a stunted psyche. This clarity effectively kills the fear they used to instill in you. You might notice them withdrawing from you. They may leave the room, give you the silent treatment for days, or leave the house entirely. While this might trigger your abandonment wounds, you need to reframe it. They are retreating because they cannot sustain the interaction without your energy. They are leaving because there is no supply here. You have stripped them of their perceived omnipotence. This phase of the relationship is psychologically demanding. It requires you to override your biological instinct to defend yourself or to seek connection. You might feel a strong urge to explain to them why you are being quiet, or to reassure them that you still care. Resisting this urge is the work of individuation. You are learning to exist in the presence of their displeasure without trying to fix it. You are learning that their anger is not your responsibility. If you've ever reached that moment where you had to stand firm with nothing but your own will, share a piece of your story in the comments. Your voice might be the reminder someone else needs to keep going today. But let's be brutally honest. You cannot hold your breath forever. While this non-reaction technique stops them from feeding on you, it is not a permanent way to live. It is a temporary shield. Think of this silence as the anesthesia you take before a major surgery. It stops the immediate pain so you can think clearly, but it does not cure the disease. As long as you remain in their environment, you are essentially sleeping in enemy territory. You are constantly on guard, wearing armor in your own home, waiting for the next ambush. That is not freedom. That is just survival. You have used this silence to reclaim your energy. Now you must use that energy to make the only move that actually matters. You didn't build this strength to stay and endure them better. You built it so you would have the strength to walk away. In the next part, we will discuss the ultimate expression of this power, the decision that the narcissist fears most, and the only outcome that forces them to accept your reality completely. This is the final threshold, the one decision a narcissist is forced to respect. You have analyzed the narcissist's mind, you have fortified your own internal boundaries, and you have learned to stop feeding them your emotional energy. All of these steps are vital for your own psychological survival. But there is one uncomfortable truth that remains. The narcissist will never truly respect you while you remain physically present in their life. As long as you are accessible to them, they view you as a possession. They believe that you are still part of their inventory, a resource waiting to be used whenever they decide they need it. The only decision the narcissist respects, the only action that registers in their mind as absolute, undeniable, and permanent, is the decision to leave. This is not about taking a break. It is not about sleeping in the guest room. It is not about asking for a divorce in the middle of a heated argument to get a reaction. The narcissist knows those moves. They view those actions as negotiation tactics. They believe that if they just say the right words, or make the right empty promises, or apply enough pressure, you will return to your assigned role. They do not respect threats because they do not believe you have the capacity to exist without them. The action that commands their respect is the final, quiet, and non-negotiable departure. This is the unthinkable act to the narcissist. Their entire psychological structure is built on the delusion that they are the center of the universe and that others exist solely to revolve around them. They operate on the pleasure principle, where they seek immediate gratification and avoid all pain. They deny reality when it does not suit them. When you pack your bags, block their number, and remove yourself from their environment, you are forcing them to confront the reality principle. You are showing them that their actions have consequences that they cannot manipulate away. It is important to distinguish between leaving to manipulate and leaving to liberate. Often, in the cycle of abuse, a victim will leave in a loud, dramatic explosion. You might scream, "I am done with you," and storm out the door. While this feels like power, the narcissist interprets this as passion. They see your anger, and they know you are still emotionally invested. They know that if they wait a few days and then send a charming message or a tearful apology, you will likely come back. This type of leaving does not earn respect. It only confirms that they still control your emotional state. The departure that earns respect is cold, calculated, and final. It is the result of individuation, the process where you have fully separated your identity from theirs. You are no longer asking them to change. You are no longer waiting for them to understand your pain. You have accepted that they are who they are, and because of that, you can no longer be where you are. This is what the final discard looks like when it's real. You do not announce your departure in advance. You do not give them a warning that allows them to sabotage your plans. You operate in silence. You secure your finances. You find a new place to live. You make your arrangements while they are still living in the illusion that everything is normal. On the day you leave, you do it while they are out. You pack your boxes efficiently. You do not sit on the floor and cry over old photographs. You move with the precision of someone escaping a burning building. You leave the key on the table. And here is the most crucial part. You do not leave a letter. You might feel a strong urge to write them a final letter explaining why you are leaving. You want to detail all the hurt, all the betrayal, and all the reasons why it didn't have to end this way. You want them to have closure, but you must resist this urge. To the narcissist, a letter is not closure, it is supply. It is data. They will not read your letter and feel remorse. They will read it and look for weak points they can use to argue with you later. They will show it to their friends to prove how unstable and dramatic you are. By leaving no letter, no explanation, and no final words, you create a psychological void. You deny them the opportunity to argue. You deny them the opportunity to gaslight you one last time. You are communicating that their access to your inner thoughts has been revoked. This silence is louder than any scream. It tells them that they are no longer worth the effort of an explanation. When they return home and find you gone, the shock will be profound. This creates a narcissistic injury. It is a blow to their ego that they cannot spin or rationalize. They cannot tell themselves they won this round. They know you looked at what they had to offer, their control, their manipulation, their false charm, and you rejected it. You voted with your feet. Their immediate reaction will likely be a desperate attempt to regain control. This is the Hoover maneuver. They will try to suck you back in. They will call you from unknown numbers. They will email you. They might show up at your workplace. They will cycle through every tactic in their book. They will send angry messages accusing you of abandoning them. Then they will switch to pity, telling you they are sick or suicidal. Then they will switch to nostalgia, reminding you of the good times. This is the ultimate test of your resolve. If you answer the phone, even just to tell them to leave you alone, you lose the respect you just gained. You prove that you are still reachable. You prove that their intrusion still affects you. But if you hold the line, if you maintain absolute no contact, you solidify the power shift. You force them to accept that you are gone. In Jungian terms, you have withdrawn your projection completely. You no longer see them as a partner who needs to be answered. You see them as a threat that needs to be neutralized. The narcissist respects power. They respect strength. And the greatest strength is the ability to walk away from something you once loved because it is destroying you. When they realize that their tricks no longer work, that their calls go unanswered, and that their presence no longer commands your attention. They feel a deep, involuntary respect for you. They respect the fact that you could not be broken. They respect the fact that you had the courage to choose the unknown over the familiar hell they created. They will never admit this to you. They will likely smear your name to anyone who will listen. They will tell the world that you were the problem. But in the privacy of their own mind, when they are alone with their own thoughts, they know the truth. They know they met someone they could not consume. They know they met someone who saw through the mask and decided to walk out of the theater. This decision forces them to face the emptiness of their own life. Without you there to regulate their emotions, they are left with their own disorder. It is not your job to worry about how they handle that emptiness. Your responsibility is to your own future. By leaving, you are validating your own reality. You are treating yourself with the respect you always wanted from them. This journey of leaving is what Jung might call a night sea journey. It is a descent into the darkness of the unknown. It is terrifying to leave everything you know, even if what you know is painful. You will face moments of intense loneliness. You will face the withdrawal symptoms of the trauma bond. You will doubt yourself. But this journey is necessary for your rebirth. You are retrieving the parts of your soul that you gave away to them. You are reclaiming your autonomy. You are declaring that your life belongs to you and you alone. When you are finally free, when the silence of your new life settles around you, you will realize something profound. You spent years trying to get them to see your value, but the only time they truly feel your value is when it is absent. Your absence becomes a heavy presence in their life. It is a monument to your self-worth. Leaving is not an act of cruelty toward them. It is an act of extreme loyalty toward yourself. It is the moment you stop being a character in their tragedy and start being the author of your own life. It is the decision to save yourself. And that decision, backed by action and silence, is the only thing that will ever force the narcissist to acknowledge your existence as a sovereign, powerful human being. The true victory over a narcissist isn't when you stop loving them, or even when you stop hating them. It is when you can stand in front of them or think of them and feel nothing but a quiet, unshakable peace. It is when you see them exactly as they are, not a monster, not a god, but a broken, projecting child trapped in a cycle you are no longer a part of. That encounter you were so afraid of, that fear of losing them. It wasn't a test of your weakness, it was the fire that forged your strength. It showed you that the safety, the love, and the validation you spent years begging for is something you can now give to yourself. You haven't just survived a battle, you have finally come home to yourself. You have integrated your own shadow, claimed your own light, and stepped into your own individuation. And I promise you, the view from here is beautiful. If you are ready to explore the next chapter of your life and learn how to rebuild after the discard, be sure to click on the next video. Your path toward complete sovereignty is just beginning.